Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi there.
Welcome. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Good. It's my favorite time of year. I'm doing great. Happy Giving Tuesday. Have you heard of it? Did you guys know it was Giving Tuesday? I know it's a new thing. I've heard of it. Welcome. I'm just gonna get started right away, but I'd love to hear any wins that you've had recently. Any wins? What are your wins? Feel free to unmute and share. Just promise us you'll get to the point.
I'll go. Kelly and I had a meeting last week with a gentleman. This isn't quite a win, but it's a step in the right direction.
Okay.
And we had told that he doesn't have any money and it's not really worth, pursuing, blah, blah, blah.
Huh.
But Kelly and we had a really strong meeting with him and he's very passionate about our work. And so it ended with put something together that could be an ongoing partnership where he contributes financially to us because he said, I understand this. You're in the business of you guys need to continue to make money in order to continue to progress with your organization. So it ended up it was a really good meeting and we're like, okay, that wasn't, a waste of our time, was it?
Huh.
So it's a learning experience. So
Yeah. That's great.
yeah.
That's kind of along the lines of the topic for today. So I love that. That's cool. That is a win.
The mini win.
Congrats.
Thanks.
Well, we need to celebrate all the wins. So anybody else, I'm like, I need to focus on the wins. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else when you've had recently? Or maybe we need to work on getting better at recognizing wins, huh?
I'll volunteer. I'll volunteer as tribute.
Okay, great.
I've tasked myself with I'm new to free wheelchair mission. Yesterday was like my 90 days. So I tasked myself and wrote probably about 65 handwritten notes and
Nice.
um very time consuming, but I'm seeing some major gifts trickle in based on when I sent those. So I did just receive a $5,000 gift.
Nice.
Great. So
Congrats.
thanks.
I love that. I love handwritten notes. That'll never go away. That's my prediction. They'll only just become more and more rare and unique and a great way to stand out. Anybody else? One win, big or small?
I'll go. I had a donor who had sent a check in the mail before I got to make my ask, and my ask was twice what she had sent. But I made it anyway, and so she is sending a second check.
Nice. I love it. That's fantastic. Congrats. Go, Laura. We're talking about today converting raving fans into donors, and I have a guide for you. So here's how I think it's going to go. I'll probably teach for about 20 minutes and then hold your questions till the end. And then if you have questions, we'll do questions and any coaching that you might need around this, or if you have specific donor scenarios that you want to ask about, feel free. That'll be the point too, where if you want to share what's working for you related to this conversation, you can also do that. Well, that's how it's going to go. Sound good? You with me? I'm a thumbs up kind of gal, so if you can, great. So I will share my screen. So here is my super sophisticated guide to converting raving fans into donors. Okay. The first is Some of you are going to say to me, Julie, we can't convert them because raising major gifts takes 24 months or 36 months or 5 years. How many of you have heard some odd number, right? You've heard a number that's like, this is how long it takes. It takes 12 months before you should ask, or at least 6, and I say, maybe not, maybe not. Here's a conversion principle. Move at the speed of the donor's heart. For some of you, the growth opportunity, and you will raise more money, way more money, exponentially more money, a lot faster than maybe you personally are comfortable with, because they do not fit into your nice, tidy box of an engagement plan. Well, we like to have them come to an event, and then we like to do a meeting, and then we like to do a second meeting, and then we like to do a this, and then we ask them. And I say that that usually slows things down. For some donors, that may be right. And for some, it's like, okay, you're treating me like everybody else. You're fitting me into this box. And you're actually slowing down the process when, if you get better at listening and if you're more curious and if you ask straight up, you'll be able to recognize where you actually stand with your donor. How many of you know that in building relationships, sometimes you're fast friends, right? You don't need 12 years of friendship to trust this person. For whatever reason, it's totally mutual. You just get it. You get each other. You're on the same page. And for some of you, like, it does take more time, right? With some people, it just takes more time. So moving at the speed of the donor's heart and getting better at recognizing where you stand with them. And I'm going to give you some handlebars on how to recognize that. So here's how to identify who the raving fans are. It's they rave about you. Duh. Okay. But give positive feedback. They're replying to emails. They like and comment on social media. They share your social media posts. They've shared that they want to learn more. They've attended events. They volunteer. They bring friends. They have a pattern of engaging. They offer help. They want to get more involved because they've said so. They give without being asked. They demonstrate a loyalty of giving. They have been giving for X number of years. These are all of your raving fans. And some of you, the challenge is that you are far too modest and you don't see things accurately for fear that you will be presumptuous. But there are donors who are raving fans and you underestimate their passion and their alignment with your mission, and you underestimate how much they trust you. And so as a result, you move at a glacial pace to convert them to the level of support that they would actually do, because you are not a good listener, as good as you could be. You could be better, because we have an idea of what we think they should do, of what their donor experience should be. And if it doesn't fit into a box, then we freak out and we're not adaptable and we don't know how to deal. Some people are going to come to one event and they're good with a 10K gift. They're ready to do it. Boom. They don't need any more. Some people are going to see your website and donate $5,000, and that's all they need. They don't need more. Some people are going to volunteer and they're going to tell you how amazing you are. They're going to constantly ask you how they can help, and you are not asking them for a donation. And it's like, what else do they have to do to show you that they love you? Right? It's like, do they have to stand outside of your office with a giant sign that's like, I love you? And then they start to think like, oh, well, I guess it's not really, they don't really need me. They're probably good. Like, oh, I really love them. I think what they're doing is amazing. They're actually like the best at it. I'm really passionate about this, but I guess they just don't really need my help. They're probably good. That's what they're thinking when we move slow. Slow. And I actually it's really disruptive to the industry because there's a lot of best practice that says, oh, well, if you want to raise a 7-figure gift, then it takes 5 years. And I say that that's BS. And me and my clients prove that wrong all day long. And we don't risk relationships, we strengthen them. So what do you say to that? Because we're actually listening to the donor. When you tap into the heart of where they are actually at, not where you want them to be, and not the box you want them to fit in, then you can move at their pace. And some people are ready to go. They're ready to go. So before we move on, put in the chat, what's your biggest takeaway so far? Or the biggest thought you have around this conversation so far? Put it in the chat. Yeah, great. Trying to find the right way to be curious to identify their heart and the right next step for them. Don't presume your donor's timeline. Great. We underestimate how much people want to get involved and give. Great. So this is gonna get really tactical really quick, okay? So here's how I'm gonna walk you through what's worked for me and my clients to have these conversion conversations. This is how I do it. You ready? Put ready in the chat. Ready. The first is we use language, it seems like, and I sense you. Okay. So here's a few examples here. You came to you're talking to the donor, right? This could be over email, this could be on a phone call, Zoom, in person. You came to our gala, you've been giving loyally for 5 years. It seems like you really believe in what we're doing, and we are one of your favorite organizations. That would be one way to do it. And then I would say one of 3 things right here. Am I wrong? Is that accurate? Is that fair to say? Okay. Another, you don't have to say all of that either. You could say, I sense we're among your top organizations that you support. Am I wrong? Or is that accurate? Is that fair to say? It seems like we're your favorite nonprofit. I say that. I've said that so many times. Most of the time, I'm right. And you have to learn to trust your instinct here. There may be people coming to mind for you, and you're like, I think we might be their favorite nonprofit, but I don't know. I'm not asking this and baiting them, knowing that the answer is yes. I'm thinking it's likely that it's yes, but I could be wrong. And part of why I'm asking is to find out. I want to know where I stand. It seems like we're your favorite nonprofit, rather than saying, we're your favorite nonprofit, right? It's like, it seems like we are. Based on your support of X number of years, you've been giving, you come to our gala every year, and you told me X. You told me, what did they say to you? What's in your CRM notes? What did you talk to them about when you saw them last? What was the last conversation you had where they were giving you positive feedback? Did they say, I really love y'all's model. I really love what you're doing. What you're doing is so important. This is personal to me. I give because my son is impacted by your work. What are their reasons? Do you know? Do you listen? And then based on blank, so insert specific raving fan observable behavior. This is not a feeling that you have. It's something that you've observed, something they've said, something they've done. Hey, you've been volunteering with us for the last 17,000 years. Right? It's like, hey, you've been a subscriber to our email list for 10 years and you open most of our emails. I would literally say that to them. Or, hey, your company, you've been giving monthly for X number of years. It seems like you're a huge fan and you're all in. I've said that. And then they're like, and then I say, am I wrong? And they'll say, no, you're not wrong. Or they'll say, or I'll say, is that accurate? They'll say, yeah, it's accurate. I'm all in. Yeah, Lindsay, it's accurate. I'm all in. Amazing. Here's what we need. The number one, and this is geared towards new donors, right? So this is converting new donors at this point, but you could see where this may or may not be appropriate. The number one way folks get involved with us is they start out as donors. That's a really great baseline place to start. Like, hey, when people first get involved with our organization, they always start as donors. Would you consider giving X amount? Right? Because now they've already told me, they've shown their cards. I'm on the same page with them. They feel heard and understood. They have verified, yes, I'm their favorite organization, or yes, they trust us, or yes, they're all in. They're a huge fan. Whatever it is, they've verified that. So it would make sense that I would then ask them to give. And then some uses for this guide. This is not an exhaustive list, but could be asking current donors to give again who fit this criteria, right? Could be asking event attendees or volunteers to become donors. Could be asking audience members when you have a speaking engagement. Could be email subscribers who reply to emails with a positive comment. People who you email within your portfolio who are positive, encouraging. And it could be monthly donors to become major donors. Could be social media followers who constantly like and comment. And you could DM them. Hey, I'm actually going to add that. Followers who engage with content regularly. So it could be a DM strategy. Hey, thanks for being such a supportive fan. Like, you comment all the time and you love our stuff and it really means a lot. That could be a simple script for you to create a pipeline for turning raving fans into donors. Why do you follow us? What do you love about our content? Could be, right? To write love on our arms, this could be one of your biggest strategies. And then you're using this guide of, it seemed like you've been commenting, you've been following us for a while. They'll tell you, oh yeah, I think I found you guys in 2020. Wow, it's been 4 years. Hey, so how people take the next step with us is they become monthly givers. Would you consider giving $20 a month, or whatever the conversion is going to be, whatever you want it to be? What I like to do is set a day for myself, whether that's every Tuesday, I am having a Raving Fans Tuesday where I put time on my calendar and it's the first thing I do. And I go through my list of raving fans. I look at my portfolio. I open up my CRM and I see who are the donors. I open up my inbox. Who are the people who are engaging? I open up social media. Who is commenting? And I just take time to engage with raving fans every single Tuesday. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it on Tuesday. I'm saying that this is what's worked for me. and that you could do it any day. You could do it every day. It could be the first thing you do every day for 30 minutes. This is completely worthwhile, and this is where new donors are found. So building in a rhythm for yourself based on when you know you have energy and it works for your schedule, whatever that is. If it's Monday, Tuesday, if it's a Friday thing, whatever it is. Making time to do this weekly at a minimum, you're going to see more people become donors. And if you ask people, hey, based on your loyalty of giving or based on the fact that you've been following us for however long, based on the fact that you come and volunteer every holiday season, or you always do a peer-to-peer campaign for your birthday or whatever it is, and they tell you, yeah, you're not my favorite nonprofit, you're in like the top 3. That doesn't mean you should back down from asking them to be a donor. You might alter what you ask them for. Could be. I think sometimes you may be their favorite nonprofit, but they don't want to play favorites. So they might not tell you, but their behavior reveals that you are their favorite. And of course, I've like wrestled people to the ground on that one. I'm like, yeah, okay, so I get it. You don't want to play favorites, but you are doing this, this, and this. Do you do that for everybody else? And they're like, no, but just don't tell them. I'm like, why would I tell anybody? So even and again, right? This has to do with listening and being curious and seeing what's really going on in their heart. This isn't about my agenda. If they tell me, no, I'm not really a big fan, you're wrong. I mean, I've never had anyone say that to me, but I'm sure it's bound to happen eventually. Sometimes you might be wrong, but it's really great information because now you know where you stand. And I want to prevent any mental gymnastics and wasted energy trying to ascertain what this means or what that means, and just instead straight up ask. So there is the Google Doc in the chat for you. I'm going to stop sharing and let's take some thoughts, questions. Takeaways.
I just had a question in terms of, okay, you offer, hey, how about $20 a month? And they're like, no, not for me right now. When do you check back? Do you offer something else right away? Do you say, oh, that's okay? And right, like what's the next step?
Yeah, if they say no to a gift, I usually ask, and again, comes down to emotional intelligence. You can tell if it's appropriate or not. It's your call, right? You'll know.
Yeah.
But I'll usually ask, hey, totally fine, no worries. May I know the reasons why? It's really helpful for me for feedback in engaging other people to know your reasons for declining right now. And they'll usually tell me. They'll say, "Oh, it has nothing to do with you. It's just my financial situation." And they'll typically disclose, I have this hardship or it's just not possible, but maybe next year. They'll typically give you a timeline. They'll say, hey, let's touch base in 2025. And they'll tell you, right? And you can decide based on what you think their capacity is when you should follow up. So
No, it's
if
good.
you're just in a season where you're like, we're getting a lot of new donors, like our focus is more heavily on new donors, then follow up with them more often.
And
Like
if they're
once
just
a week.
ghost you as a raving fan, which would be rare, then what are you following up them once a week? When you do, what are you doing?
Um, I
Or
think
do,
I missed the first part of what you said.
oh, well, if they just ghost you and they're, even though they're a raving fan, which would be unlikely, I would say, if they do really love you, then how often would you follow up with them or just let it go?
Um, Depends on what I think, how raving of a fan I think they are, and what I think their capacity is.
Sure. Okay.
If I think they have the potential to give big and that's where their heart's at, if I sense that they really are mission aligned, they love what we do, then I would just tell them that, hey, I'm going to keep following up with you because I sense that this really matters to you.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I would say you make the call
Okay.
if you want to keep trying or not. You could put some people on the back burner and just reach out to them once a quarter or twice a year and then let it go. Or you can turn up the heat and reach out to them once a week, 6 times. And if you hear nothing, let it go.
Okay. Thank you.
But if I have someone who, I had a donor who had given $30,000 without ever having a meeting with anyone. And I looked him up and they were a billionaire. And they had given to other causes that were aligned with our mission. I was like, oh, they really care about this. And that was just one of my donors. I don't have a long list of those people, but I reached out to him at least twice a month for close to a year.
And he finally responded?
No, he never did.
Oh, he never did.
No.
Okay. Well, you
No, I
tried.
never did. But that's just an example of he opened all my emails though, and he opened them multiple times. So, because I had mail track. So I know that he was seeing what I was writing, and they were highly personalized.
Hmm.
Um, if I had had more time, maybe I would have gotten through, but that was just one person because of their capacity and because I saw that they were really aligned to the mission, I didn't want to let it go. And I was just willing to see. It's kind of like there's a portion of your time that's going towards experimentation,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
It's like
Yes.
R&D. It's like we don't know. We don't know. We don't know if it's going to work. It's just a
Yep.
test. We're
Mhm.
scientists. We get to try it out. We get to experiment. And I kind of had a chip on my shoulder. Like, I want to see if I can get this guy's attention. He's super rich. He's super busy. Let's like try, like, it's very little of my time that it was going towards, but it was a great experiment because then I got to the data to see which links he actually clicked on, what emails he opened 7 times versus an email he opened once. Like, all of this is really great, useful feedback for me, even though I never got a meeting with him.
But usually people like that, don't they usually have other people reading their emails?
Yeah, this was his personal email.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, someone else could have been reading it. That's true.
I just wonder if you ever played that game of like, how do you get through the gatekeeper?
Well, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I just try to build a relationship with them, and if I can get them over the phone.
Yeah.
I tell the gatekeeper what the donor told me.
Hmm.
They usually don't know. So if they have an assistant, I'll just say, this person said they wanted to meet with me in 3 months
Yeah.
or whatever it is. Or this person wants to be more involved, then it's my job to make sure that they are, or whatever. Like I need to report back, period.
So I have another question, but I don't want to hog all the spots, so I can wait till the end.
Okay,
Or-
okay.
So if other people can go, I can go at the end.
I'm sorry, I have a question. I don't want to hog either, but
Go for
I
it.
have I have an emerging raving, what is it, donor, lover of Haiti Outreach. And this is the one, Julie, that I put in the chat. I told you it was a whopping $500, but the backstory is she was a complete cold call on my part. I was looking for a category exclusivity for a corporate sponsor of our gala event. So she was out of the blue, knew nothing about the organization. We established a rapport and a relationship, and she told me last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever this was, that I made the call. She said, I'm in it for the long haul. This is how much money I can give you
Mm.
right now. I did your thing, which worked. I was shocked, but it worked. I said, and she said, yeah, by the end of the year, I'd like to get this in, blah, blah, blah. And she said, again, she said, I just want you to know I'm in it for the long haul. So what is the appropriate? I don't want to be too into her business, but she is clearly an emerging raving fan who is growing in her business. So she's got a kind of a startup business. So that's where she's at. She's hardly, she's a far cry from a billionaire. She's growing and she's a huge fan of the work we do. So how do I keep her, grow her, how does that look without being too much in her business?
What does that mean? Too much in her business. What does that mean?
Um, is there a point where I'm just bugging her too much, or do I flat out ask her? Say, how do you want to work together? I have a personal, more aggressive side, so I sometimes have to temper myself a little bit. I don't want to be really aggressive. My inclination would be to say, okay, you know that, we need to continue to receive funds in order to stay, keep the doors open. My inclination would be to say, how much of a relationship do you want to have? Do you want to talk once a month? Do you want to talk just to flat out ask her? I'm just curious of your opinion on that. Is that an angle to take, or do I just don't love the, email, hi, how are you type of thing per se. So I don't know.
Yeah, you're asking a stewardship question. I don't think that especially if someone says they're in it for the long haul, that you asking them how often they would like to hear from you is getting too much in their business.
Okay.
Don't know where that's coming from. Would be a
Okay.
really good thing to think about and coach yourself through, Jennifer. What is it? What is the story that I'm telling myself about what this means if I keep people in the loop? Right? Because that's what you're talking about. So if you're telling yourself that keeping people in the loop is pestering them, then you will not keep people in the loop. If you believe that it's an imposition to email people and report back to them the good work that Haiti Outreach is doing, then you won't do it.
And then secondarily, thank you for that because that's super helpful. Secondarily, would someone like this be part of our general communication that we send out in constant contact, or or do we take that particular person in that category and have that maybe separate and more of a personal, or maybe there's not a magic formula at all. Maybe it's just see how it goes. I don't.
Well, it's not magic, but yeah, there is a cadence or a rhythm that you need to commit to as someone who is taking care of this donor. So it could be that you ask her for feedback. I would suggest that even far above and beyond that, regardless of whether she gives you feedback, you commit to emailing people who are major donors or who are raving fans or whatever, to a cadence that you can keep up with.
Yeah.
So whatever that is, right? And that you're sent, and a lot of this stuff too is inside the course portal. So you need to go through that. And there's a lot of answers in there about donor engagement and annual planning, donor communications. If it's a major donor, so I consider a major donor someone who gives $10,000 a year or more, I am going to send them a touch point or a meaningful update once a month. It could be an email with an impact story. That's it. I'm not asking them for anything. It could be, hey, I know that April 13th is your birthday. Happy birthday. And that's my touch point for the month. You can get creative and build relationships based on your strengths and what's happening in the overall Haiti outreach calendar. But you don't have to do once a month. If that's too much, don't do that. Don't do it. Right? It could be like right now we don't really have a plan. So we haven't been updating people at all, let's say. I'm not saying that's you, but if that was the case, then like updating them once a quarter is a huge improvement. And if you commit to doing that, you can tell her, hey, love that you're in it for the long haul. You can expect to get updates from me once a quarter. I'm telling you that now. And then the reason you tell them is so that now you are delivering on a promise, which builds trust. If you overpromise and you underdeliver, you actually undermine the trust and the credibility with the donor. Part of why I tell them what I'm going to do is because I want to show them that I'm actually going to do it. And then when I do it, I'm elevating the brand of the organization. I'm investing into the relationship bank with that donor. I'm only building a lifelong supporter, somebody who is going to be loyal, 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 because I'm showing them that I can be trusted, right? And right now, at large, we're kind of in this trust deficit. We're in a trust recession where we don't know who to trust. And there's a lot of crappy information out there. And it's like, did somebody write this or is this AI? How do I even know? Who am I talking to here? I mean, haven't y'all seen? And then scammers, right? Have you seen scammers are on the rise? I mean, it's like a bajillion dollar industry. It's horrifying. So if you tell somebody you're going to update them once a quarter and then you actually do it, that is the simplest way to stand out. If we're so worried, we look to the left and the right. We're like, the competition's so stiff. We're not the only ones who do work in Haiti, right? We're not the only ones who are doing what we do. Why us? Keep your word. You want to stand out? You want to be rare? You want to be unique in this world? Keep your word. That's it. Honestly, like that is the secret. You want to know what my secret sauce is, right? And it doesn't mean that I'm flawless. I certainly mess up, but I own it. I don't live in a delusional land where I never make a mistake, right? So even if I don't keep my word, I go to the donor and I tell them, hey, I promised you that I was going to do this and I didn't do it. And I own it. No excuses. No excuses. I'm not going to tell you my story about how my life is hard. Sorry. Everyone's life is hard. Newsflash. We are all going through something, all of us, right? But we still mess up. We still do. So just own it. That also builds trust, right? These are like the things that it doesn't go into a strategy document, but it is your strategy. So decide what your cadence is going to be. Put it on your calendar. Plan on it. It's an appointment with your donor to email them. Keep it. Don't let the tyranny of the urgent take over. There's a fire I got to put out. If you don't do this, you will lose donors. Period. They'll go give somewhere else where they think people actually need their money, and notice when they give and keep them in the loop. And when we keep people in the loop, they can be responsive, right? When we build trust with people and they know what's going on, they know the wins and they know the challenges, then they can actually help you when they're in the loop. So there's so many benefits, so many benefits. It's a great question. And thank you for asking it, Jennifer. Is that helpful?
Very much. Very, very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Julie, I had a question.
Hello, Lindsay.
Hi. When you talk about major donors, I was curious with Trait Love, we have a large group of people who are large fundraisers for us. So like a peer-to-peer person,
Yes.
network. Would you consider that person also just brain space? Like that's a major donor, even though they may be giving a small amount of their time, they're fundraising on your behalf. Would you still lump them into that? And would that change this conversation in any meaningful way?
They're definitely raving fans, but they're not major donors yet.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a whole different category of supporter that I think you definitely want to steward those relationships and keep them in the loop and take care of them.
Okay.
It might look different in terms of the frequency of how often you talk to them based on how much they raise.
Right.
I imagine that all of them give something personally, right? It may not be a major gift, but they all donate personally something.
Yeah. And I'm to clarify, like the ones that are in that 5 to 10,000, like they create annual events where they're raising money specifically. I just was curious. I know when we're using this language, we just have a department here that has multiple sort of hats that we wear. So trying to think about rules apply, but maybe are tweaked a little differently.
Yeah, and you know, you could decide that they're major donors and that you want to steward them a certain way. I could see how the language would be confusing because
Right. Major
you have
support.
some people
call
who
them
are
something else. Sure.
giving 10K versus some people who are raising 10K. It is different.
Mhm.
But it would make sense, yeah, that that's a whole group of folks that are ambassadors that you would need to manage those relationships. And some of them may have the capacity to do a major gift personally.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that helpful? Am I answering your question?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Okay. Questions, thoughts, anything that's worked for you related to converting raving fans into donors? Feel free to share and unmute.
So I have a couple more questions. So I got an email today from somebody who's said, I heard you on a podcast.
Ooh.
And I love what you're doing. This is amazing. I just wanted to send you really good thoughts, yada, yada. I'm going to check out your website. Thank you so much. Okay. Brand new, not necessarily a raving fan, could be, but for me to turn around and be like, hey, the best way for people to start out is to become a donor seems a bit too much. But to add or say, you know, join our newsletter, or what would you say to that person who is super excited about us without even knowing us, really?
Yeah. Great question. Oh, don't you love great questions? I do. I love great questions. I love questions. Thank you, Kelly. So a few things. I mean, they already told you that they just heard you,
They
but
just heard about us.
a
Yeah.
great follow-up could be, and I get this a lot because I have a podcast. People reach out to me, they DM me, they tell me how they listen to my podcast. I ask people, how did they first find me or hear about me if they didn't already answer that question. I ask them, how long have they been following me for if they didn't already answer that question. In this specific case, you know, I would ask, and this is based on what is the best next step for them to understand your mission and get closer to what you're doing. Is it, hey, are you already on our mailing list?
Yeah.
If that's the best next step for them. And then I would say one line about that. You know, we send updates and impact stories once a week. That could be their next step. It could be getting a phone call. Could be a 15-minute phone call. So you could use a calendaring software like Calendly is free, right? And create an appointment that's a 15-minute appointment where you're just sending it to people like this and saying, hey, thanks so much. Would love to get to know you better and hear your story and share a bit more about what we're up to. Do you have time for a 15-minute quick chat? Send over your calendar link. Why not? That could be the next step for them.
Yep.
Then you get on that call and you just have a get to know you call.
Yep.
And that could be where you have this conversion conversation. And again, it has to do with your understanding where they are at. So you could get on this 15-minute call and they're just gushing. And they say to you, I'd love to get more involved. And then you can say, great. The
We
way
need
that
money.
most people first get involved with us is they become a donor.
Yep.
The next step could be maybe you have like great videos on your YouTube channel, or you have a like awesome annual report, or you have whatever asset that you want to leverage. Hey, have you seen this video yet? Check it out. I think you're going to love it. Could be a good next step. Let me know after you watch it. So, yeah, you're kind of building in what is the path for them that will bring them closer to the mission and build the relationship. And
Yep.
looking at the data of the conversion for most of your donors, right? Did they find you and then join your mailing list? Did they come to an event and then get your emails? Did they find you on social media and then they started to volunteer, right? What was the path for a lot of folks? And then create that path, build that path for people who reach out. Hey, I just heard you on this podcast. You're amazing. If you look at this person and they're the managing partner of some firm or something, I don't know, you'd be like, I'd love to get on a call with you. You got time today?
Yeah, true. I gotta look them up. I don't know who they are.
Right.
Oh.
So some people, you know, it just depends. It depends. You could, regardless of their title, you might decide you want to have a call. Who even knows? Who knows? Who knows what's possible?
Okay, my last question. So I was also on a call today with an executive directors group that work in international development. And this one guy got invited to the group. I have no idea how he got invited, but I run this group. And he said, so it seems like everyone in this group is about a 2 million or less organization. We have 140 million in assets and we're at whatever, this kind of thing. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, yeah, well, the discussions are different. And he, but I'm like, maybe you could share, because when he got the organization, it started at a 2 million and now it's whatever. I'm like, well, maybe you could share how you made those jumps, right? And he's like, well, the only way to do it is don't look at people with little gifts. And I'm just so frustrated with that because we're talking about $20 monthly donors here, right? And then I got this guy. And so maybe it's just a nothing, but it was just like, it was very disheartening. And it was also maybe just him personally, just like, it was basically like whatever you're doing isn't working and you just need to focus on huge, major, like we only look at big, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands and this, right? Like don't even waste any of your time. I won't even waste my time on any of those calls. So is that, I don't know. I don't know what your thought would be. And I was gracious and said, well, thanks for joining. Maybe there could be another time we could use your expertise. But yeah, it was weird. Or do you think like, yeah, don't waste your time on, because these are time consuming, what you've talked about today, even if it's for a half hour or something like that. Yeah, but to be able to focus on those big, big gifts, does it start with a DM in your Instagram? Maybe it does. I don't know.
Yeah, well, so a few things. There were a lot of studies done on major donors, and typically their first gift is $100, $1,000, 200. It's much, 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 much lower than their actual capacity. And this is why there is a myth. Frankly, it's ignorant. And I don't blame people. I used to think this. Well, we don't have any major donors. That's why people believe that. Because they're like, we only have, it's like this
$100
belief
donors, right? Yeah.
that, yeah, if somebody gives $100, that's probably around the best they can do, which is totally wrong. Totally wrong. I mean, Mackenzie Scott gets a lot of press, but she's like the anomaly of the anomaly. So I think that for that particular person with 140 million in assets, the part of where I think Kelly, my feedback for you personally, my coaching around this would be chew the meat and spit out the bones. So the way to learn from someone who isn't good with advice.
Yeah, I feel like it was the delivery from this gentleman, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe he was a little holier than thou, a little bit self-righteous, a
That's
little
what it
bit,
seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, hey, whatever makes you feel good, buddy, go for
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah,
go
it's like I'm not
crazy.
with you people anymore. It's like,
But
oh,
I just let it roll off the back. I'm like, he don't even know me. How could it possibly have anything to do with me? He's not even
oh
asking
yeah.
me he's not even asking questions. All he heard was, oh, 2 million or less, you know?
Yeah, he's
So
like, I'm out. Yeah.
how I learn from everything, right, is like what is within this that is a maybe overall principle that could be derived from what he's saying. And the principle within it is at every stage of growth, there are things that are too small for you to focus on. That's the nugget within what he said. So, yes, for him, anything smaller than hundreds of thousands, he probably shouldn't be. I mean, especially if he's the CEO, get out of there.
Yeah. Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, he's right about that. The same thing can be applied to you. There are likely things that are just too small for you to focus on, and that is going to constantly elevate and grow as your organization grows and as you grow as a leader. The stuff that you focus on is going to evolve over time. It's not going to stay flat. And especially, right, as you train up your team, as you raise more money, your budget grows, you perhaps hire more team members, everyone's role related to the development function will shift and change. And that's good and that's healthy. Right? So you might say, right now, if a donor is giving 5K or more, then perhaps I'll be involved somehow in their stewardship. But moving forward, it could be Kelly's only involved with 10 or 20K and above opportunities, right? And then as you grow, it's going to be 50K and above only. Your portfolio is going to get smaller and smaller, but it's going to
Yeah.
be bigger and bigger gifts. And those are parameters you need to set for yourself. Those are standards, right? That you're saying this is where we're going and growing as an organization. And so this is how I'm going to prioritize my time. I'm going to be wise with it.
Yes, I agree. Yes, it's always that balancing act. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Who hasn't said anything yet? This is your moment.
Haven't said anything, but Eileen, how do you say? I don't want to butcher your name. Who just spoke? Sorry,
Kelly?
how do you?
Kelly.
Oh
Kelly.
God,
Sorry,
yeah,
I was
just
like,
Kelly. It's super
oh
confusing. It's
no, it's such a
Gaelic
beautiful
spelling. Yeah, it's
spelling.
just Kelly.
But I
Yeah.
didn't want to.
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
I've just been marinating on all the collective shares that have been very helpful. I think I was thinking similar as you, Kelly. Like, the return on investment on DMing and doing these small moves, because like we're at, as you know, Julie, at this place of trying to cultivate donors to become major donors, and so that like does take a lot of time, but I mean I'm convinced it works. But I was just been sitting on that, and I think your question really resonated. It's like we still need to put the investment in, because you don't know what someone's ability to give is yet, right? We make these assumptions, and then when you make the assumptions there's a lost opportunities. So I appreciate you asking that, because it's been on my mind.
That's great. Yeah, we often don't know people's capacity. It's hard to know. I mean, you can know sometimes their career, how long they've been a professional, their title, the company they work at can all be signals. But really, what is even more consequential to them becoming a donor is their passion.
Would you say the same though about likes? Because what I find, like, as I comb through like their social media, a lot of people like things, but they're not commenting, and so there's very few. And so I am trying to like take a mental like stock now as I'm going through our post, which ones get traction, who are the
Mhm.
people that we can keep on the short list to engage if they like comment, but not a lot are. So do you have like a rule of thumb of like likes? Because sometimes people are just doing likes so that other people like their stuff, so it's like, how do you qualify that, I don't know. There's just any guidance on that would be helpful. So you know where to focus for the likes.
Yeah. There was someone who liked a LinkedIn post of mine today, and I saw her name, and I was like, oh, I should probably DM her because I recognized her face and her name because she likes so much of my stuff.
Mhm.
Like she likes every single thing. And I don't even know. I mean, I don't know if she'll become a client. I don't know if I'll end up giving her free advice. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have been reaching out to me for career advice because their job sucks so bad. And it's like excruciatingly painful. I'm like, oh my gosh, man. And people are telling me their stories about their crazy boss and their crazy board. I'm like, dang. And I'm the courage lady, right? So they're like, what do I do? um, but I say, Aaliyah, if you see like patterns of the same
Mhm.
people, like, hey, oh, this person, I would just, there's nothing, no harm in just making a friendly touch point, like just touching base, like, hey, just want to say thanks for like liking our posts and for your support. I really appreciate it. Like even
Mm.
it just starting a conversation like that, it doesn't have to be so
Yeah.
direct,
Like asking just yet. Yeah. I like that.
like
Just to,
how like it, and the benefit
Mhm.
about LinkedIn is you can see like how long they've been following you or if you're connected.
Mhm.
So yeah, then I mean, you can say something like, "Oh, have you been following us for long?" Or I mean, just starting like a human conversation with people, basically. If you
Mhm.
see patterns and if your instinct is like, there could be something more here, I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's our time. Thanks everyone for your great questions. You will get the recording and you will also get the guide. Um, yeah, I'll see you on Slack. Have a great day.